Okay, good day to. I hope that we will see more than we are here today, but nevertheless, this will be video recorded, and anyhow, you can see that afterwards what we are going to talk here. And anyhow, I just learned from the previous Pavilion panel that anyhow, each of us is having several thousands of LinkedIn connections. So please use actively to sharing what we are going to talk here today. This panel what we are having today is a innovative circular bioeconomy solution for sustainable future. This is organized in a collaboration together with Ministry of Agriculture Forestry of Finland and World Bioeconomy Association. My name is Jukka Kantola and I'm the chair of the World Bioeconomy Association. I'm very pleased. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. This is louder. Come a bit. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, we are in Belém. Yeah, very pleased to moderate this very fascinating panel. And actually, I'm also personally very thrilled to get back to Belém. This was the place for the World Bioeconomy Forum 4 years back, when we organized that together with the Brazilian government, and that was sort of paving the way where we are today in terms of that, bioeconomy is for the very first time in this occasion during these days taken as an official topic in the climate convention. So I think that we all can be proud about that as representing the bioeconomy. And I think that this is only the paving the way for the next upcoming climate conventions. And it's not only the climate convention which has took up then this bioeconomy as a topic. Also in G20 context, bioeconomy was introduced last year, and as a result of it, there's now the very first sort of concept of definition on the bioeconomy, and it's called high-level principles on bioeconomy. It is describing very shortly, very smartly written, within only A4, so that each of us can read that, and even the ministers can read that. That it's describing what do we mean by the bioeconomy. That is also describing the interconnection in between the bioeconomy, climate change, what we are talking to here today, interconnection in between the bioeconomy and biodiversity, and socio-economic matters. So all are well written, very smartly, and that was announced 11th of September 2024 during the Brazil presidency. And the train did not stop there because it was announced in Rio Convention, and now again Rio. And this year, when the South Africa was chairing this COP G20, I need to put 1 cup of coffee more. G20, so it was then high on agenda also during their term. So it's good to be within the bioeconomy. It's good to be within this panel today. Before we move on to our discussion, I'd like to highlight the joint statement from the Nordic Minister for Fishery, Agriculture, Food and Forestry, released here at the COP yesterday. You can find it here. I advise you, if you can pick up then this teaser, you can find the content of it and quality of it. And it captures the shared Nordic vision for the sustainable food system and bioeconomy, stressing urgent need for climate action and ensure food security and resilience in global supply chains. The minister emphasized 6 key priorities: importance of the strong multilateral cooperation, the need for urgent climate action for food security, the potential of an innovative, circular and sustainable bioeconomy to address climate challenges, a science-based approach to guide decision-making, equality and inclusive policymaking as a foundation for just and lasting solutions, And finally, a firm commitment to the Paris Agreement and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The statement clearly underlines that bio-based solutions are a vital part of the fossil-free society, complementing technological innovation while boosting local livelihoods and community resilience. That is precisely what we explore today, how innovative circular bioeconomy solutions can provide sustainable alternatives to fossil materials, enhance competitiveness, and contribute to both climate mitigation and adaptation. Building livelihoods and innovation on circular use of bio-based resources and fostering cooperation across regions is a key to an inclusive transformation. These ideas lie at the heart of the Nordic team, innovative circular bioeconomy solutions for a sustainable future. So as said, that you can take this teaser and you can find more information on it via it. So let's move on. And we have today here 3 distinguished panelists. First of all, we have Jane Molony, Executive Director, Paper Manufacturers Association of South Africa. So welcome, Jane. And Jane is a leading advocate for the forest-based bioeconomy. She has over 2 decades of experience advancing sustainability, circularity, and innovation in the pulp and paper sector. Jane has chaired the International Council of Forest and Paper Association and represents business in UNFAO and national dialogues on sustainable production and biodiversity. She continues to drive initiatives linking forestry, circular materials, and climate solutions across Africa and beyond. Welcome. And then we have Rachel Miller, all the way from New Zealand. She is an environmental manager for the Forest Owners Association. She works for the Forest Growers Industry Body. And as we talked before this, that the New Zealand does have or does not have a bioeconomy strategy. You will tell about that us more later on. And then we have Claus Felby, who is the Vice President for Agriculture and Food Science at the Novo Foundation. Thanks for joining, Claus. And Claus leads programs on biotechnology, food systems, and bio-based energy solutions. A former professor of biomass and bioenergy at the University of Copenhagen. He has more than 20 years experience in biological innovations and sustainable research. Claus has led major academic industrial collaborations, developing enzyme and fermentation technologies for a green transition and advises on climate and resource efficiency strategies in Europe and globally. And later on, we are also having Dr. Laura Sokka from the Finnish Environment Institute sharing closing reflection. This is the hardest part of this entire panel, but we count on you. Yeah, let's move on. And we will start with broadly. So let's start with Jane. What does the bioeconomy mean to you, and what role do you see it playing in tackling climate change? That's a big one.
Okay, right. Think fire. Think shelter. Think food. Think medicine. Think Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have been around forever. The bioeconomy is billions of years old. Paper, papyrus, fiber, wood, exciting stuff. And paper is what actually helps with your actualization. So from your absolute foundation of Maslow's hierarchy of needs right to the tippy top, we meet people's needs. But the bioeconomy in climate change is even much, much more than that. I'm from the Southern Hemisphere, and I am an advocate for the eucalyptus tree. I carry around with me a defense on how much water it uses and how clever it is. But why am I mentioning the eucalyptus tree? Because we have the opportunity of decadal change. So in South Africa, we are seeing the climate change. And on the East Coast, it is going to be getting wetter and hotter. And every 10 years, that means that we can breed our trees now to cope with that climate change. So we are in an enviable position. But what about the Northern Hemisphere? I saw Herou Fox here earlier, and at the G20, he talked and he had maps of North America. And he reckons that buying land in Greenland is a good proposition if you're in forestry, because it's going to get warmer and wetter up there too. So we need to adapt. And for me, that's what the forest bioeconomy is about. It's circular, it includes biodiversity, and it includes the economy. So people, prosperity, and planet.
That's very nicely said. We will all keep that on mind. So let's now shift a bit order, because we are coming from Global South, and let's take next to Jens. Yeah, Jens. So how do you see that? Okay, what's your taking on the bioeconomy, and how this is related to climate change mitigation?
Well, first, let me say, wait another 1,000 years to buy land in Greenland, because you need the soil. There's no soil out there yet, but then it's probably going to be a good investment. The bioeconomy is a carbon economy. It's a circular economy. It's an economy that's, we used to have a bioeconomy, but on came the fossils, and we had a fossil economy for a long time. Still, it plays a big role. So, I'm with the Nordic Foundation. We support science, we support innovation, we support development. We love projects that fail. We like to push new technologies. We like to build up the common background, the knowledge bases we need. And when we look at it, a lot of the technologies are coming of age now. Plant-based foods, materials. We can now put 1,500 cows into a fermenter. So it's really a major technological change ahead of us. That's all very good. But, and here's the big but. We still need markets, niche markets to really develop and scale. And we also need a market that works for the ecosystem services that the bioeconomy deliver. We can measure carbon. We can measure carbon storage. We can measure carbon credits, more or less. We need a CO2 tax. It may be coming. It is. In Denmark, we have it now. In a few years, we also have it for agriculture. But one of the biggest deliveries from the bioeconomy is biodiversity and ecosystem stability. We cannot measure biodiversity. It is not about counting species. We know that. It's about functional ecosystems, stable ecosystems. How, just as you have thermodynamics, we need to develop biodynamics. We need to have a measure for that, because once you have a measure for it, you can put it into the market and it can function into the economy. So the bioeconomy is missing a leg or two here to really work. We need to track resources, and we need to track ecosystem services. So for us, I would say that's going to be a focus point for the Nordic Foundation. How do we build units for biodiversity that are really based on how biology works, how nature works? It's quite ambitious. We think it can be done, but we need to work together on this. And that's, I would say, from a Nordic perspective, something we should work together, but also looking at what's going on in Global South. New Zealand is quite active there as well, and South Africa. We need to come together and solve this issue, because if we don't get the units right, if we don't are able to measure all the elements of the bioeconomy, it's going to be really hard to make it work. The good news is we can do it. The other thing I would like to say is that I used to be a professor, and I used to think in 5-year cycles. 5-year research program, results now, then what? We don't have 5 years. We need to think in 1-year research cycles now. And so we need to come together and think differently. Also from academia, from industry, from government. And we need to have results now. Is this in the right direction, or do we need to change? Does this work, or do we need to look somewhere else? So it requires a different mindset to get this operating. But the good news is technologies are coming. We can truly have a full bioeconomy, but we need to get regulation in shape, we need to get taxation in shape, and we need to be able to measure the services that the bioeconomy delivers in order to marketize them.
Yeah. Thanks, Claus. There was a lot of food for thoughts. I think that we are getting back to this with some questions, but okay, let's first allow Rachel, please. How do you see this?
Is this working?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's working. Yeah.
I can speak to New Zealand's experience in trying to develop a bioeconomy, and also to the problems that we're trying to solve in New Zealand with our forestry systems that would be helped by a well-functioning bioeconomy. So, the work we've done already, we have built a strong partnership between the government and industry to write a plan for New Zealand and what our bioeconomy will look like. So we're looking for new high-value, value-add products that are really going to lift our economic gain and provide new and interesting uses for the fibre that we generate. So an example is we have been developing a Douglas fir oil plant, which exports Douglas fir oil around the world, which is a really unique and interesting product, but a great way to expand on our bioeconomy. We're also looking... So, what was I going to say? Losing my train of thought. So, one of the problems we have in New Zealand is we leave a lot of our woody residue up on the slopes. It's not viable for us to bring it all down to the mills and the ports. So there's this whole lot of biomass sitting up on top of all the hills in New Zealand, sitting there needing to be used. So we are thinking about ways to use that in boilers, in the manufacturing industry, and to create these value-add products from the wood that we leave behind. I think, there's much more I could say, but I'm not sure what you're interested in.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think the New Zealand is very famous on this carbon credits. So one of the, I would say, most, let's say, advanced market in that respect. So. But that refers to the question what was also elaborated with Claus about this. I like this notion what gets measured will get done. And when it comes to the bioeconomy, you said already that the carbon storage, the systems are then in place. That goes to all of you. So then the biodiversity is evolving. How do you see the bioeconomy itself? Do you see there any monitoring or measuring or so any initiative on that side, or is it even necessary? Let's talk Jane.
Okay, I'm going to take up the challenge of measuring biodiversity. So we are actually working on a methodology for measuring biodiversity. We have a climate change bill, we have a carbon budget, we have sectoral emissions targets, and we have a carbon tax in South Africa. And they recognized, our government recognizes sequestration in harvested wood products. So our carbon tax equation says minus sequestration, okay? And what we did was we developed a module for our small farmers so that they were not disadvantaged in providing to the big corporates. And this model works very, very well. You put a whole lot of inputs in, it's transparent, and the government is happy with it. So the smallholder farmers can report their emissions from their plantation, everything from fertilizer, it's dry land agriculture, so there's no very little water, etc. What we're doing now is we are doing exactly the same for biodiversity. And I agree, it is complex, very, very complex. But we are working with the PEFC, the local organization, the African Assurance Scheme for forests, and developing this biodiversity module. And what is so exciting from a bioeconomy perspective is that our government has a biodiversity economic strategy, and the biodiversity in our country, they recognize, is worth billions. And it's not just, it's the flora and fauna and the big five and the little five. So it's the whole gamut. And in the forest, the ecosystem services are also recognized. So yeah, so sorry not to exactly answer your question, but yeah.
Okay, but that's a good one. Okay, reminded about how to measure the biodiversity. Maybe the add-on question that okay, that's applied in South Africa, or is it then applied beyond South Africa?
No, it's for South Africa, but the exciting thing is that it recognizes platforms like TNFD, and it can be overlaid and feed into GRI, TNFD, all of those rather onerous reporting systems for companies.
Okay, yeah, thanks. And how is that in New Zealand?
So in New Zealand, we have a mature emissions trading scheme. It was brought in 2008. So the way it works is that emitters buy forestry credits and try and offset their pollution. So we don't have a bio credit system yet for biodiversity, but we're working on it. We're very keen to get one. We are currently running some pilot projects testing how a system could be designed. We hope that it would not be part of our emissions trading scheme for carbon, but it would run alongside it, parallel, a similar system that would not diminish the work we've already done for carbon in the emissions trading scheme. We have a unique situation in New Zealand where our emissions profile is heavy in methane. We have too many sheep, too many cows, not enough people. So we need to figure out ways to balance out our methane emission in our bioeconomy. It's a complicated problem we're still working on, but we've got carbon sorted, and we're working on biodiversity and biocredits, and watch the space for methane and other problems.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Let's move on then to Global North, but the Novo Nordisk Foundation is operating globally. Yeah, you said that you are also developing some of the biodiversity metrics. So I assume you are having some project on that field. Could you elaborate on that topic a bit?
Yeah, well, first of all, we sort of looked what's the situation today. I think we found more than 20 different ways of assessing biodiversity. None of them are standardized. They don't exchange data. It's sometimes very local, sometimes with the same country. In Denmark, we have 5 different ways of doing it, and they each think they have the best way. It doesn't work. And it's great that you're looking at national systems in South Africa. At the end of the day, we need international standards. Because a lot of the customers for biodiversity in South Africa is up in Global North. So how do you open up the market? So again, we need to build the standards, and we need data. We can have all the wonderful standards and ways, methods, but if you don't have the data, it's not going to work. So there's like a bread and butter work that's needed ahead of us. For the bioeconomy, we need to have a data infrastructure, ecosystem data infrastructure, agriculture data infrastructure. It's all the same data. So that's at least one of the focus points for us, and we will start to try to engage others, is how do we build that database Earth based on, say, 100 by 100 meter grid, includes the DNA data, the basic abiotic, biotic data, everything, as much as we can. Because once you have that, we can really start. It will boost innovation, but it will also boost measurement, reporting, and verification at the same time. So we have to start, not with the whole plan at the same time, but it's coming now. And it's supported by remote sensing, machine learning, all the models we see now, the landscape modeling is like, you're like, wow. It's really, so that's how the microbiome works in these soils. It's coming now. So international collaboration is pivotal, and we need to join our forces. I'm sure, we could make a pledge that in 5 years from now, we want to have that system, a beta type, a prototype beta version. That should be out there. That should be tested and working in selected spaces. It's doable, but it requires that we come together and we focus.
At least we know the direction where to go. So I think I'd like to draw back as to the bioeconomy theme. So this is very good that this the biodiversity, and there's I think they all know that's in Colombia COP30 there's even the biodiversity credit were introduced, as it is the case already for carbon credits. But then when we come to bioeconomy, there are no bioeconomy credits, and that's also which is then missing sort of, let's say, how to measure, how to get the grip on that. And I think when it comes to this latest developments within G20, referring to high-level principles of the bioeconomy, is giving the concept that what do we mean by the bioeconomy. That's one thing. The another thing is that what's happening here in this very historical, I keep on saying this, a historical climate COP, that the bioeconomy is raised up as a topic. And it's very interesting to see that where we are after 2 weeks' time, that how it will be then incorporate into this system. So remain to be then see. But let's elaborate a bit and the bioeconomy perspective, the very same as the biodiversity. I challenge you a bit. I know this is a new thing. That I would tell also that this is FAO is already working on that topic. Some of you might know that. But how do you see now the bioeconomy, how that should be then measured? Any ideas on that? I think there is a bit provocative question, but let's start now from Anders.
Okay, can you clarify a little bit how we get biology in there? What do you see? What is it that you are?
I mean that the bioeconomy. That what do we mean by the bioeconomy? That's the reason I ask about what do you mean. What's your notion on the bioeconomy and how to measure the bioeconomy?
Yeah.
Any ideas to that?
Well, it's basically about carbon. It's a carbon economy. That we use carbon. I mean, it's a bio-based carbon economy. So how do we measure that? I mean, that's relatively easy. But we need carbon as a resource for food, for materials, for energy, whatever. But it requires also that we think in circularity. Carbon moves as a cycle. We know that. And we need to think how, and a critical point there is where our food systems and our energy system come together, like biogas. Enables us to recycle the carbon, enables us to recycle the nutrients. And these are, you can say an important nexus that still needs some work to get that into the system. Again, giving it a value, or putting a tax on the stuff we don't want. So the carbon element, I mean, these carbon-based technologies that we are looking at, be it forest, whatever, be it biogas, be it fermentation, whatever, to make proteins. we have them, but it's about getting the system together to build the markets, to make these markets functioning. And I'm coming back into the valuation and so on. But it would be nice if we had a sort of a more focused strategy on how to solve these, the empty spots, how we address these much more than we do today, and then also accelerate the development of a bioeconomy.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Expert has good examples on these topics.
AI examples?
So in New Zealand, we are a commodity-based economy. So we export a lot of dairy, and we dry out a lot of milk into milk powder and ship it around the world. And we're isolated, so it's a long way to ship powdered milk to be re-wetted in another country. But we're trying to solve the problem of how to get all of our surplus woody debris and woody residue in an economically viable way from the top of the hill down to all our dairy factories and things. And we're wanting to replace the use of coal in those dairy factories with woody biomass instead. It's sitting there available for us to use. But at the moment, we can't solve the problem of how to do this viably between the slopes and the factories. So we're working on it, and we hope to get there soon. But we have this very mature emissions trading scheme that serves us very well. We trade in carbon. It's not perfect, but to quote my friend Ross Hampton, I would say that it's better to start something and to do some good rather than getting it perfect. And that's what I would say about our emissions trading scheme. So we are dealing with carbon, but there are problems in the system. There's too many forestry units. There's an oversupply. But it's doing something, and it is working towards a better bioeconomy. So we're solving problems along the way, and we hope to crack this one soon.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, maybe Jane, maybe you can then elaborate this topic a bit from the G20.
Okay, from the G20 perspective, we had the Brazilian presidency, and then we had the South African presidency, and it was really exciting because we had the biodiversity. What is the GIB called? GIB, the G20 Innovation G20. Whatever. Anyway, it's the GIB. It's on biodiversity, and Jukka mentioned the FAO. And I see my EU colleague here in the room who was at G20. Maybe you should be the one that elaborates. But the FAO have done a great deal of work, and they have over 4,000 indicators that they have come up on how to measure the bioeconomy. And I think that it is principle number 8 that they have expanded on. And the exciting thing about this is not the number of indicators. The exciting thing is that it's the beginning of a common language. It's the beginning of a common understanding, so that whether you are in Denmark, in Finland, or in Mongolia, you can have a standard that you can say the bioeconomy has triumphed here. This has worked. Let's replicate it. Let's scale it, because that's one of the biggest issues is scaling the bioeconomy. You mentioned biogas. In Kenya, there are a number of smallholder farmers where what they have very successfully done had small biogas energy production, which immediately empowers the entire community. And in Africa, you are not going to get the bioeconomy to scale unless you have decent infrastructure, sustainable energy supply, and water supply. Everybody thinks Africa's got lots of water. They don't. They may have 60% of the arable land that is left in the globe available in Africa, but 2/3 of Africa is actually dry. So things like planting trees, I think it was Green, they actually plant trees, make like a little hollow and plant trees on the banks. And contrary to swallowing all the water, it actually secures the water, and you have your whole little local water cycle going That's enough for me.
And that was a lot. Yeah, thanks for shedding light on that topic as well. So I think let's change a bit and angle on this topic. Markets was already mentioned, and let's talk about economics of this all, and how do you see now this how to accelerate the entry of the bioproducts or bioeconomy as a whole? So would you share any ideas on that?
Well, it has to be cheaper and better than what we already got. That's going to change. That's what you see. I mean, we need to recognize that whatever we put forward, we put the bioeconomy into the market, the produce it delivers, the service it delivers, has to be parity, and they have to be better at least. That's what we see all over. If we that, so that comes back to scaling. We need scale. And some of the renewable energies, you had niche markets. The solar panels, they had the space race to develop. We need niche markets to scale, to develop technologies, to bring costs down, and then we can hope for global carbon taxation. But there is this barrier to scaling. You need a market to mature and a market to grow. So that's also a policy thing. It's a discussion among governments. How do we build the niche markets where you actually can put the new technologies out there, the new products, the bioeconomy products, where you can put a value to recirculating carbon, recirculating nutrients, and put that into the system and develop supply lines and all these other things that we still need. So markets, niche markets, to introduce bioeconomy services, bioeconomy technology, and bioeconomy produce.
There's this niche market, and even let's broaden a bit, even the bigger scale. You know, it has been said that the value of the bioeconomy currently is about $4 trillion, $4 trillion, which is corresponding about 4% of our all economical activities. If the IMF says 100 trillion is the value of the whole economical value, and but it is expected that the bioeconomic value will increase all the way up to 30 trillion. This is by, for example, the former U.S. Biden administration, when they launched these advance into biotech and biomanufacturing. China is saying that it's coming from everywhere. So how do you see that? That's a big question. How do we make that happen? Jane.
Okay, talk is cheap. You need tax rebates. I'm just thinking about the biodiversity. In South Africa, we have a taxation where you can get sort of a tax rebate if you look after the biodiversity. So that is the one thing that'll help. People don't like to talk about feed-in tariffs. What happened in South Africa, feed-in tariffs for renewable energy, we got all excited because, cogeneration, it's 40% less carbon intense, and it's from your biomass, and it's a byproduct of your pulp and paper industry. But the reality was that the feed-in tariffs, we were told, no, it's got to be a market. So the necessary thing is that you need the right policy, and subsidies are a bad word, but sometimes to kick off a market, you actually do need that subsidy. Can I give a quick example? I can see you looking anxious. Okay, quick example, sludge. So we have a project where we have a pilot plant producing bioethanol from paper sludge. But the reality is that without the EU market for the bioethanol from waste, it's not a viable business plan. So, and then there's
Okay. That's very good. I think that let's give now floor to our audience. If you would like to challenge our speakers, panelists, any pressing questions that you would like to address?
Thank you very much. I'm curious. Can you hear me? Yeah. You said, Jane, that your biodiversity strategy. So how does it reflect in South Africa between the diversity and economy strategy?
Okay, so in South Africa, we do have a bioeconomy strategy and a biodiversity strategy, which is a bit of a problem. They should be one and the same. But the problem, of course, is that the bioeconomy strategy was developed by the Department of Science and Innovation, and the biodiversity strategy was developed by the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. So it brings us back to the whole government thing where you have silos. We need to collaborate. And the gentleman here, I've only just met you, sorry. He also talked to the need for that collaboration. And it has to happen within governments as well, because you should have the biodiverse, circular bioeconomy, delivering goods and services that make a difference for a sustainable, climate adaptable, resilient world so that people can live a better life.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Thank you. So my name is Nina, and I'm from the Nordic Council of Ministers. I'm just wondering, because that's wonderful what you're saying, but how do we get there? So I'm kind of critical about like the public sector, in a sense that we have this procurement possibility to have a public procurement and make a standards for that. And do we do it enough, like from the public side, from the governmental side? Is there anything we could do more?
I didn't hear everything, but from a government perspective, public procurement is fraught with difficulty, especially in a new world. And in the Southern Hemisphere, certainly, the more barriers you have, the more opportunity there is for whagimpukoen. So, you put something in your back pocket because I'm the gatekeeper. So when you develop anything, it can be well-intentioned, but you mustn't have too many gatekeepers. There needs to be an easy flow of whatever it is that you're wanting to develop. We are just busy with our government with a public procurement policy. So it can work. It can work.
I like to add on a bit that, I think when we are dealing with the new things, that, sometimes it's good to have interventions in place. For example, if you have a look like a plastic storyline, before the Second World War II, there was not that much plastic used. And there was, that was invented there, earlier. Then there was, on that point of time, there's, US government forced the, production board to invest into this very fascinating sector called plastics. And where we are today, plastics are produced 450 million tons. And out of that, less than 2% is based on bio-based. So, should we have a look the another way around, to having a counter intervention, to having that, the sort of intervention? But Claus, very shortly, please.
Can I raise a point here?
Yeah, please.
Bioeconomy is a lot about reducing our footprint. It's about land use, using less land in our food system. It's probably not a good idea to substitute fossil plastics with plastics that needs a lot of land. So I would say if you try to, that's got to put another, I think some numbers were sort of like 400 million hectares to substitute all that. Of land. So, but here's the deal. Use CO2 instead. Build it from CO2 and not from sugar. So you can use whatever plastic you have out there right now. Burn it, capture the CO2, and use that to make new plastic. But it was like 10 years ago, buy plastic, yes.
It's not a good idea.
But now we start, there's a land use thing here. So I would be really hesitant about promoting or going big on bioplastics.
I didn't say that you need to use a bio-based plastic. you can always use biotechnology, capturing the CO2 from the atmosphere like Landsatec is doing. It's nothing to do with the land use. You are reusing the CO2, you are using the biotechnology, and then you are producing plastic. That's another way around.
But-
I didn't say anything about land use.
Okay, sorry, but maybe that's the thing we need to be. I mean, just because it's bio doesn't mean it's smart from a planetary point of view. So we just need to keep in mind that we have finite resources. The planet has a certain size.
Yeah. This is called debate, but that's why we are here. But I think that, okay, it deserves to have another hour. So let's stop now here. And last now, okay, Laura, to conclude this all. So please go ahead.
Perhaps I can stand by here. Oh yeah, and it was with the thumb. Yes, sounds good. So thank you very much for giving me the possibility of closing this. Just very quickly, my name is Laura Sokka, like you already heard, but I work in the Finnish Environment Institute, which is a government-owned research and development institute in Finland, in Helsinki. And well, also other parts of Finland, but our main office is in Helsinki. But yeah, we have a lot of the things that I was perhaps going to say here. We have actually already heard. So I'll maybe just try to conclude here quickly. And first, of course, thank these really good viewpoints that we heard earlier. And like said, bioeconomy, it definitely has a central role in climate change mitigation. But at the same time, of course, we have to, like we now heard in the final sentences here, that it's important to think what is being manufactured and what it actually replaces. And there are now the CCU technologies coming, the carbon capture and utilization, which can also bring one solution here. And personally, I would see that the biomaterials have a large role, particularly in technologies and in solutions where they are replacing fossil materials and where they can actually bring large enough reductions in carbon impacts in comparison to the lost carbon sink. And for example, in Finland, the battery materials used in the anodes, I think at the moment, are one of these. But yeah, what we also heard, it's central when thinking about biomass to think about also, like this was very good word, this using it as to actually talking about carbon economy and not maybe bioeconomy, as that is the reason we are kind of one of the reasons why we went to bioeconomy, and it's important to ensure that while using the biomass, we are also keeping up its role as a carbon sink or carbon storage. And of course, in like you have probably heard, in Finland, for example, we are having difficulties at the country level at the moment to actually follow the EU targets that we have been given. And yes, and what was I still going to say? Yeah, but it is definitely so that bioeconomy has an inevitable role in climate change mitigation, I think. But and what was brought up here very nicely was this biodiversity, which seems to already have a large role in South Africa, for example, like we heard, and in New Zealand, and of course in many countries. And yeah, it would definitely be interesting to hear even more on these examples on how it's considered there now. But this was really good point, I think, also in that we are often looking at the bioeconomy as one strategy and then the biodiversity as one strategy. And I guess that will be the challenge in the coming years, and also globally on how we can combine these and think about them at the same time. And definitely I would also think that as we have an international economy and the wood streams are coming from one land to another, kind of the role of international standards, like we heard, is probably going to be fairly large in the future. So thank you. Really nice and really interesting discussion with a lot of different things. Very nice to listen to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. This concludes in this all. I would like to add on when you were saying about the silos of bioeconomy, climate change, biodiversity. We have to remember that Rio Convention took place 1992, and that was of somebody's numbers. Okay, that was the birthplace of these climate change mitigation conventions. First one 1995. Now it's the 13th, so it's already in the adult age. Then when it comes to biodiversity, its roots back also in the 1992. And now it's been 16 times in a row. There's the last year, it was a Colombia. And so it's about the getting the adult, it's having a voice. When it comes to bioeconomy, it's still beneath the surface. So that's going to now happen in this form. So, but nevertheless, okay, we stop here now. I thank you for our audience for joining this, and have a good day here in Belém. Thank you.
Thank you.